My name is Chris Nine.
And where are you from, Chris Nine?
I would say I'm from Austin, Texas, but I grew up in all over the place. My dad was an Air Force guy, and so I grew up all over the South and then kind of settled in Houston for most of my youth. And so I moved from Houston to Austin in 1999.
You're probably the only guest that I am coming in like completely cold.
Oh, really? So usually they've told you their list of like, afflictions?
I've got this, or I did this, or I discovered that.
Why didn't you ask me?
Because I wanted to be surprised.
Okay. All right.
Welcome to Friends with Deficits. I'm your host, Adam Sultan, and my next friend is Chris Nine. Chris is a musician here in Austin, Texas. She plays bass and keys in more great bands than I can name, including one of mine. And from what I learned in our conversation, she might want to take it easy. But she's a badass, so can't stop, won't stop. But I'm going to stop here and let you hear the rest of my conversation with Chris Nine.
I was in kind of tech field for a long time, and a musician and in technology. And so I moved from Houston to Austin during the .com boom. Joined a startup here and found a bunch of friends. And I wasn't real active in music during that time. I had been previously in Houston and during the 90s. And then I kind of picked that back up and once I got settled here. And it seemed like the easy thing to do.
How long have you been a musician?
Since I was about 14, 15,
okay.
I learned, well, maybe a little bit younger than that. I taught myself piano around 10. And
Damn.
then by ear, just picking out like Howard Jones and Duran Duran synth lines on a little Casio keyboard.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I got a book and taught myself two-handed piano stuff. And then I got my first guitar when I was 14 or 15, I think, on my birthday. And then got a Beatles songbook and went to town.
Wow. So you're totally self-taught.
Yeah, until I got into in the choir in high school is where I learned how to read music and do all that stuff. And then in college, I decided I wanted to major in music. And so but I only got 2 years or so into that. And then I joined a rock and roll band and went on tour and did all that and never went back.
Cool. What band?
It was called Manhole. It was an all-female hardcore
oh my God.
Political band called Manhole.
I feel like we're in Spinal Tap. You should have said that with a British accent.
I know.
I was in Manhole.
We did have 13 drummers, so we went through drummers one after another. They kept exploding.
Yeah, there you go. Wow.
But so that sidetracked me, and then one of the part-time jobs that I kept while we were I was doing the rock and roll thing. I was working like at a stationery store. That used to be a thing, and they had one of the first like desktop publishing making wedding invites for people, and so I learned how to program. This is early internet days. Learned how to program that.
Yeah. And
that turned, step by step into a tech job, basically.
Do you still have a tech job now?
No. During the lockdown, I quit my job to homeschool my kiddo, who wasn't doing good with online school during that time. I also got diagnosed with cancer at that time, and so it was just a whole like reset the world of my world and everybody else's at that time too. So I became take care of the house, teach my kid, homeschool my kid kind of thing. And then after things opened up again, they got situated at a school, and I realized, with various health issues and everything, it was just better if I did not hold down a full-time job. Mm-hmm. And so I do not. I am now can absolutely say I'm a professional musician, and that's pretty much how I make money these days.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and my husband obviously has a good job and
that's good.
Carries most of the weight there, which I greatly appreciate.
Get married, kids. You heard it first.
Find yourself a sugar daddy. No, that's not our situation at all. But anyway.
Is he in tech also?
He is, yeah. So it worked out well.
Did you all meet in tech?
We did actually. We met in Houston. He was a software programmer, and I was a project manager at a early internet hosting facility. Mm-hmm. He was not my type at all, and it turned out that I was going on tour again, this time backing up a singer-songwriter guy, and the bass player that was coming along with us pulled out at the last minute. So I literally posted on our internet bulletin board that I was looking for a bass player, and he took it, the job. He contacted me, and we went on tour for 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden he was my type. And
wow.
so, learn more about him, and we've been together for 25 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I thought it was going to have a tech ending. I mean, you actually found through
music. Yeah, which is perfect because we're both multi-instrumentalists and play a lot, and we encourage each other's obsessions with collecting good gear and playing music, and we're in multiple bands together, so it works out nicely.
That's cool. And for those who wonder why the quality of the sound is so much better than some of my other episodes, we're in your awesome rehearsal recording space.
We are.
Yes, with pro gear and a great attitude.
Nice. Yeah, my husband's name, for the record, is Phil McJunkins, and he plays in a bunch of bands in town too.
Cool.
So
shout out.
Yes.
So how do you square being in a bunch of bands with taking care of your health and not being stretched with a full-time job? Which sounds like
that's
the same thing.
That's the thing. It's with a full-time job. I did it for I was in many bands and a full-time job and everything else. And I did it, and it was very hard. Now that I don't have that, I do spend a lot of my days, I have time to actually rest and take care of myself because it's needed. Mm-hmm. And I'm so grateful to be able to do that. I have to kind of save up, store energy for like when I have a gig. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, my loadout is in 3 hours. What am I going to do? And then I'm like, okay, I need to take a shower. I need to lay down flat, and I'll explain why in a little while. And I need to kind of store up energy. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to take all my vitamins. I'm going to eat a good, I just really have to put thought into it in order to be able to do what I do. And I have like lots of little tools and tricks and things to help manage. I also, I'm use all those project manager skills, the points that I used to spend during the day at my job to be good at my job, I now have to spend on myself. So I live by my calendar. I make random spreadsheets for charting music sometimes, or like isolating parts. Like if we've got a big project where my band's going to be learning an album and I have to figure out who's going to play what, and I can do that. I can put that mental effort towards it now.
Yeah.
I'm in multiple projects and I do a lot of sub work or studio work, and it's just I think organization skills is how I'm able to do it, basically. Yeah. And having the time to rest and take care of myself.
Remembering what band you're in. That's my problem.
Yeah.
How many bands are you in now?
I couldn't give you a number because it really does change.
So, these solid 3-4 bands.
I can try. I have, I'd say 7 solid gigging bands.
Jeez.
That play semi-regularly. And then I have probably another 5 that maybe play once or twice a year. And then I have a handful of other artists that call me occasionally to go in and do stuff. Yeah. And
what's your primary instrument?
Right now, it seems like I get called most for keys.
Okay.
And I'm playing keys in the most bands. Mm-hmm. But I would, if you were to ask me what I felt was my main instrument, like as far as capabilities, I'd say bass is where I'm the most confident. And then guitar, I often play in those keys gigs as an extra. Yeah. And I sing backing vocals mostly. Yeah.
How is it not a scheduling nightmare? I mean, you talked about your tools, but at the same time, or do you have to cancel a lot of shows, or just say, or they have to find a sub for you? Or
I've been really lucky. It's really about managing time and expectations. You know, I also accept a lot. I say yes to a lot.
There's no conflicts of dates where somebody asks you, can you plan this date?
Sure.
You're like, no, 3 other bands asked me. Yeah.
Sure. Well, for me, it's first come, first served, right?
Okay.
I have certain bands that I push to always book as far in advance as possible because they are like high priority all my bands are high priority, so don't get that wrong. But I encourage everyone to be organized and book in advance, and they're less likely to ever get a no.
Good deal.
Yeah, I'm just organized, I guess.
So I heard you offer the information that you were a cancer survivor.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know.
That's one of the least interesting parts of my weird health stuff. But yes, during COVID lockdown, I got diagnosed with a type of gastric cancer called neuroendocrine tumors, or NETs, they call them. They're tiny tumors that can happen all over your body, anywhere in your body, your brain, your kidneys, your whatever. And they were in my, I'm going to say it the way the doctor said it, but I've never heard it pronounced this way, duodenum.
Oh, yeah.
Duodenum.
Yeah,
I thought that's what it was called.
Me too.
It's a little area connecting your stomach to your small intestine. And they found a couple. And luckily, they were able to be removed by surgery. And so I didn't have to go through chemo or radiation. But they can come back anywhere. So I had a big PET scan to scan, and luckily there weren't any at that time. But it's one of those things I have to keep checking on because it can come back. How
did you know you had it? Like, were you symptomatic?
Yeah, IBS type stuff. And I had the full scan, colonoscopy, endoscopy, and they found them then. Yeah. But thankfully, the symptoms of that have been pretty small. Like, it wasn't that bad. I had to have surgery. It definitely took the energy out of me, all that stuff. I have now fill out the form that says I have cancer on every medical diagnosis or doctor that I visit. But I knock on wood. Mm-hmm. It could have been a whole lot worse. It's the same type of cancer that Steve Jobs had. Gets in your
really?
Can get in your pancreas and cause big time problems. But thankfully, I'm good. So,
that's good.
Yeah. Most of my stuff that I deal with is neurological. So I have a number of weird neurological conditions that I had never heard about or known existed until I got them.
And when did you get these?
So in the when I was a teenager, I started having chronic migraines, and they seemed to be triggered from hormones, cycles, and then anytime I'd be around perfumes or cigarette smoke. Now, the interesting thing to note there is that my mom wore a very 80s perfume called Emerald, and she smoked like 4 packs a day kind of smoker. Right. And so my mom caused it was the biggest trigger to my migraines. But that's unfair. It's just, if you can imagine being in a car, a big 80s LTD Crown Victoria black, and then having the windows barely cracked.
I just know this. I know this description.
Yeah. And then sitting in the back seat and not wanting to be there anyway, and it's like 100 degrees outside and it's hot and the AC's barely getting, and then you're smelling cigarette smoke and Emerald perfume, and it's just, I can feel a migraine coming on, that kind of thing. So anyway, that started my life of migraines and migraine management. And in my 20s, it became really, really hard. I was getting up to 20 migraines a month, and it was affecting my ability to go to work. It was real hard to figure out.
Yeah.
Right around when I turned 30, I was at my heaviest, and I was on a plan to lose weight. Like, I was working out regularly, and I was driving somewhere, and I started having double vision, and some auditory oddness, like just kind of this whoa, 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 kind of feeling in my ears. Yeah. I'm like, something is up. And for my first stop after that was to my ophthalmologist to get my eyes checked. And she did some tests to see if I had pressure on my optic nerve. Mm-hmm. And I did. And she sent a letter to my GP suggesting that I might have something called Pseudotumor Cerebrai. Damn. Which is now called Idiopathic intracranial hypertension, which is a much more descriptive
name. To simplify
name.
it, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's still a complex name, but if you think about Pseudotumor Cerebrai, so it's the condition is your body thinks you have a brain tumor, but you do not have a brain tumor. You have hypertension inside your skull. You see too much CSF in a small space pressing on your brain. And so I was having headaches and auditory issues and vision issues. So they hooked me up with a neurologist, had a bunch of tests done, multiple MRIs and everything to figure out what was going on. And they're like, yeah, all signs point to it being this thing. Well, the only way to confirm diagnosis is a lumbar puncture. So, yeah, I know. Real fun times. So this is where the story gets a little weirder. So when they did the lumbar puncture, they confirmed that the pressure, what they call opening pressure, was in the range for this condition. So by them doing that, it released some of the pressure, right? Because it's draining CSF out of your dura. For those who don't know, it's like your brain and your spine are floating in this bag of cerebral spinal fluid. And so they puncture it with the lumbar puncture and it drains out all this fluid. And so during that process, it caused a new neurological condition called Chiari Malformation, where your cerebellum tonsils in the back of your brain get sucked into your spinal column.
This is like sci-fi. I don't even understand half of this.
It's fun times.
Yeah.
And so this condition, Chiari Malformation, they don't know whether, in my case, if it was a birth defect, which is the most common reason, or the result of this lumbar puncture. Who can say? I wasn't tested for it.
Why do they think again that the lumbar puncture would cause?
Well, it's a back of your brain. If you think of them, they're poking a hole in your tailbone, that right down there, and they're measuring pressure. Mm-hmm. And so there's, I guess, like a vacuum of sorts happening where the fluid is coming out, and so there's this downward. You can't tell, but I'm making a gesture from your brain to your spine, downward pull. Yeah, and it's something that can happen.
You said tonsils, dude, not the same as...
No, not the back. It's your brain tonsils. You have brain tonsils. Like if you think about the brain, again, making gestures, you think about the brain of those two lobes that kind of come back and they at the back of your skull, they kind of meet and my hands are going together to show little tonsils dipping down into your spinal canal. So thankfully mine is just a malformation type 1, which is the least. It can go up to a 4. It's also the most common kind. It can get worse over time. And the symptoms from it are headaches, issues with severe neck pain, shoulder pain, which I do have, and then some auditory stuff, which I already had. So again, which is first, chicken or egg?
So it's like how they treated it was what caused it
potentially.
Or continued it.
I can't confirm it because of the damage was done before we could have seen it. So main thing is I have to be careful. I mean, I'm not going to be riding any roller coasters or doing anything crazy that would cause like whiplash, but conceivably any sort of damage to my neck and back of my head could cause bad things to happen.
So you're not in any bands that are like, headbanging?
I was when I was younger. Maybe that was a problem. Maybe that was a problem, but not anymore. No. And I just don't have the mobility in my neck anymore. So like I spend a lot of time laying flat I have foam rollers. I have different types of devices that I use to try and like pull my head back, because I have not great posture, and it's very head forward like a lot of us do these days, but mine is extensive. So I spend a lot of time trying to open up.
Are you familiar with the Alexander technique?
Not ringing a bell at the moment.
Man, we'll take that one offline. But
okay, cool.
That's a conversation now.
I love tips and tricks.
What's this called again?
So the initial condition, current name is idiopathic intracranial hypertension, and then the name of the tonsils in your spinal canal is Chiari, Chiari Malformation type 1.
Is that the one that you have now, or do you have both?
Good. I didn't finish that story. Yeah. So, like I said, I was kind of on this journey to get in better shape, and so one of the ways to, basically, they say the most common demographic of people that get this pseudotumor cerebri or intracranial hypertension thing are obese women of childbearing age, which was exactly my definition. I fit in the bucket. So they're like, lose weight. And so I did. I lost like 50 pounds or something like that. And it went into remission. I was on diuretics. I had some other therapies. I was on medication. And so they literally call it remission, even though it's a fake tumor. There's no actual tumor or cancer. And I've thankfully been able to keep that away. That said, I still have some weird auditory eccentricities that happen occasionally. There are certain frequencies that wig me out. I don't know. I wish I could. I want to learn more about frequencies. I know guys that can just like say, yeah, that's a 1200 or whatever it is, and I don't have that information, but it's an area I'd like to know.
You never tested it? Like, have you been able to replicate it in any way, or?
Not really. So when I was actually sick with this, I tried to have a band practice one time, and I was in the room with the band, and I was playing, and there was the other singer from me was singing, and it was a real kind of crappy PA, and there was a pitch he hit at some point, and it just like, it was like I'm putting my hands over my ears, but it was just like a, wow, it was a crazy reaction to it. Like it hurt. And not in a volume way. It was like an inside of your skull pushing out, like kind of way. And I could feel it in my teeth. It was very odd. And so I actually couldn't go forward. We had to stop the rehearsal. I'm like, I can't deal with any sound right now.
Did anyone else notice it? Like, yeah, that was a high frequency.
No, I mean, they don't. It would have been normal to everybody else, but it was me. It was having weird times. Since then, occasionally, some singers I work with will hit certain notes that nowhere near the same reaction. They won't make me sick, but I'll be like, I'm turning my head just a little bit, like twitchy. It'll make me a little twitchy.
Yeah.
And I've also noticed that certain guitars, when people are tuning and they're out of tune, I can feel it in my teeth. I don't know. That may be something that happens to other people. But like, there's just like, I can feel when things aren't right or unsettled in my skull.
Now I feel like extra self-conscious.
Oh, good. That's exactly what I was hoping would happen from this.
Well, I mean, do you hear that with my guitar or when I'm singing? Or? No. Okay.
I usually say, another thing that my friends and family for sure say about me is that I'm very blunt, and that I usually will say what I feel about something. So especially in a band situation, I usually call out if something's really bothering me. Yeah. And so any of my friends, fellow bandmates that are listening to this are probably nodding. Yes, I will call it out. I try and be as nice as possible, but I just like that bass is too loud, or
you're stabbing me in the head from the inside out.
Yeah. Yeah. Or if there's like some weird mismatch in frequencies where it's causing, I wish I had more vocabulary for this, because I mean, even as a musician doing this for decades, like I still feel like it's hard to describe something that you're feeling inside your head in auditory terms. Like I haven't gotten that connection yet, but there was an instance the other night where I was rehearsing, learning some new tunes, and I had programmed all these synth patches, and our guitar player had sounds also processed, and it felt like on the spectrum of, we were learning Human League, Don't You Want Me Baby, for an 80s band that's reuniting that I'm playing with, and it felt like all the synth patches and the guitar sounds were all in the same band of frequencies, like all pitch and timbre and everything. It just didn't sound right. And I could not come up with the words for it, but I could feel it in my head. Wow. That it was like not right. Like, what do I do about it? I don't know. I have to go back to the drawing board with my synth patches I get. That was probably way too much information.
That's a cool tool if you could figure out how to harness it. You know?
Yeah. I want to, like I said, I want to learn more about what frequencies and the names of them, and like how to do that side of sound engineering.
I'm surprised you haven't tried that yet.
I've been all about playing.
Yeah.
That's been my drug of choice. And really each one of these like health challenges I've had, the neurological stuff started in my 30s, it continued there. And then all the chronic pain stuff I had in my 40s, and then the cancer that started right at the end of that. It's like been a boost, like a level up in a weird way to do more musically, to learn more musically, to like and realize that even if I'm like starting to get a migraine, or I had a migraine earlier in the day, but if I've got rehearsal at night, even though I feel like shit, I still want to go to that rehearsal because I get an endorphin boost from making music. Whether it's the vibrations, man, or something like that, there's something that happens wonderfully in the room. It can be just connections with other people, or actually the low frequencies or the high frequencies or all the frequencies, and it makes me feel better. I can always push through. And that's why I think what I was explaining earlier, when I need to rest up for the day and conserve energy, and then I can achieve whatever it is I need to do that evening, even loading out at the end of the night, it may be painful, but when I get back home, I'm just like, oh, okay, I did it, and it feeds me.
Yeah, the healing power of music.
It is.
Who knew? What
you and I are having here is a much larger version of the tiny conversation I had with Johnny Gowdy on his podcast, where we were talking, I was mentioning the healing power of music, and he said, oh, you should go on to Adam Sultan's podcast and listen. Tell him all about it. I'm like, okay.
I don't got time for this, but yeah, talk to Adam.
No, I said we need another hour if we're going to talk about this.
Have you covered the things, or you have another whole chapter that
There's more that's happened recently, but those are the most interesting ones. Yeah. It's just, continued discovery. I can say I touched on this earlier. I grew up in Houston, and to be specific, I grew up on the east side of Houston in a suburb area called Channelview. It's actually its own town, but Houston, and it's near all of the chemical refineries. Mm-hmm. And it's considered a cancer cluster by lots of folks. And so, I've had lots of weird health problems growing up there, living there for most of my, youth and through teens. Mm. My brother had diagnosed with stage 4 bladder cancer at age 40, which is an old man's disease, Mm-hmm. I have multiple friends who have had massive health problems that I grew up with because of results of living there. And so I feel like that ties in, kind of connects all of this. Did I get bad luck of the draw genetically, or was this environmentally influenced? And I tend to think the latter. But.
Yeah. Has anyone corroborated that, doctors or anybody?
You can look up cancer clusters in Houston, and you'll see there's, the oncologist that I dealt with was like, oh, yeah, East Houston, yeah. Wow. Or Channelview, yeah. My dad worked at the refinery. That was it's a thing. It sucks. But I've been very glad that even though I've dealt with a lot of, pain and weirdness and medical stuff, I'm still able to do all of this stuff that I love. So I'm okay. You know?
That gets to my question, which you may have already answered, that I ask all my guests, is about what are the benefits of what you've experienced?
Yeah.
If any.
Yeah, benefits. Well, it's allowed me to rebalance my life in a way that's been working for me. Enables me to do all these things I love to do. It's made me hypersensitive to, I think, music in general and maybe some auditory stuff that we were just talking about that I don't think I fully realized. Might be an advantage, even though it sometimes wigs me out. And I'm just a lot more grateful for everything that I can do, you know? Yeah. I feel like there've been a few benefits.
That's good.
Yeah.
Anything else? Any other stuff you haven't covered?
I did, in the past couple of years, I had my thyroid removed because of risk of thyroid cancer, and I lost my voice for 2 years. And
2 years?
Not 2 years. I lost my voice for several months, and it's taken me 2 years to get back to where I was. So that's been just voice recovery, rehab. Like my range for half of a year was just a few notes.
Did they discover anything, or was it just preventive?
I had what's called a adenoma on my parathyroid. Came up in a blood test. Apparently high calcium levels denote that you've got this adenoma, which is, I think, a type of tumor type thing on your parathyroid. And so once they did all the scans, they found that, your thyroid, you've probably been having problems for years, which I've always asked if I had thyroid problems, but the tests don't only show you a moment in time. They don't see the big fluctuations. So I had all these symptoms that point to hypothyroidism, but it didn't come up previously. But anyway, they scanned, they saw some wacky stuff and said, we need to take this out anyway. We should take your thyroid out as well to prevent, because you're high risk for this developing into full cancer. I'm like, okay, go for it. So during that process, they did not damage my vocal cords in any way, but I had to be intubated, and there was some sort of injury that happened at that point. And so to my vocal folds. And so I had kind of dysphonia, I think that's what it's called, where the vocal cords don't come together all the way.
Yeah.
And so you get kind of like two voices or a distortion.
RFK has that.
Yeah.
It's true, actually.
Yeah.
So did that affect you in singing in bands?
It did. So Yahtzee had just started up, and we had
and that's your yacht rock.
It is
bands.
my yacht rock tribute band, and we had been having vocal rehearsals in my backyard. This was again during the lockdown when all this happened, and sounding great, 5 harmony parts, all that kind of stuff. And then I had all of this health issues happen. So really it was back to back. I had the cancer and then the thyroid like in the same year. And then I had that happen, and all of a sudden it's just like, all my vocal parts now get deprioritized or moved really low and have to be very small. And then, over time, I worked with a vocal rehab therapist, expanded my range some, and to where I could sing most of my parts. And then over the next year and a half, my range has gotten pretty close to where it was. I have a lot more vocal hygiene I have to do. There's the nebulizer treatments. I have a singing straw that helps pull your vocal cords together in alignment. I have got tons of exercises.
Take me back to nebulizer and singing straw.
Okay, I've got this little thing called a vocal mist. You will be receiving ads on your Instagram for it right now because I said it out loud. But it's, just a little device and a handheld, and you put the little solution in it, and you just bathes your larynx in steam, basically. It's lovely. And then a singing straw, which you can use any straw that is narrow, like a cocktail straw. You don't need the specific straw, but it's nice to have it with me at all times. But any little plastic straw, you stick it in a glass of water with like an inch water, and you sing So it's not with like words, but like or something like that. And the resistance of the straw and the water pushes that energy back to your vocal cords, and it helps them align. Mm-hmm. And it's just, you'll notice, like, sing before you use it, then sing after you use it, and it's a huge difference.
Are those both good for people who are not suffering any?
Yeah, anybody.
Wow.
But it's life-changing for someone who's having issues.
Yeah.
Like, I'll notice, especially when recording, my voice, and I can kind of hear it right now, it gets a little distorted. And so, like, if I was to use my singing, I almost want to demonstrate it, my singing straw for just 10 seconds, just do some, like, sirens, like, woo, woo, through a straw, my voice would sound completely different. It just clarifies it. Like,
you're dropping some serious tips here
Thanks.
for the singing community. Yeah, that's pretty good.
I love it. And there are all kinds of people on Instagram, vocal coaches that drop, that I've learned. Those I learned from my rehab therapist, but lots of warm-ups and stuff I've picked up from people on Instagram that I love, that have helped me a lot. Anyway, my singing voice is returned. It's not where it was before, but it's okay. I'm okay. I'm happy with it.
That's good. What range are you? Are you soprano or alto?
Oh, no. I've always been alto, low, alto too. Yeah. But I have range up there, but it's just not as strong.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can belt pretty high, but it tops out, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a high baritone. Like I can never quite.
I can see that. Yeah.
I can't sing like other singers, like the high notes, but I can croon and sort of get up there.
Yeah. I've been learning a lot recently, and again, this could be another podcast, I think, about mixed voice. You know what that is? It's where you're really learning how to blend your sweet spot
the head
into the head and get the same kind of power of the head voice, but it's really cool. There's some great Instagram folks that teach about that and weird tricks, which I'm not going to demonstrate. Okay. But I'm thinking about them.
Right on. Well, cool. It's been great hearing this and talking to you and getting to know you a little bit.
Yeah, same. It's been fun. I don't know who's going to be interested in listening to my medical issues, but
we'll find out.
I hope somebody.
Yeah.
I hope it helps somebody.
If this was interesting, let us know.
Let us know.
Well, all right. Thanks for listening, and thanks again to my guest, Chris 9. If you'd like to keep apprised of her bands and gigs, I'll leave a link in the show notes. And if you'd like to support Friends with Deficits, visit patreon.com/friendswithdeficits. I'll also leave a link for that. Sign up for our newsletter at friendswithdeficitspodcast.com and tell your friends with and without deficits about the show. Like, subscribe, leave a review, help people find out about it who might be lost in the weeds of digital living. Once again, I'm Adam Sultan. Don't overbrain it.